It has been a minute, and I don't know why I still have my headband on actually, but this video today, I'm going to be just giving you a quick life update. As you know, I have surpassed 1 year, or you may not know, but I have surpassed 1 year on Zepbound. So I just wanted to kind of be go in order. So I'm going to catch you up real quick on February and March. And then the next video you see will be my anniversary 1 year on Zepbound. I guess it's fine to say. I see many people are still saying it. So 1 year on Zepbound, and then a few videos to come. But for now, let's get into it. In our appearance-driven social system, toxic productivity and diet culture are considered especially heinous. In Denver, Colorado, a dedicated goal-getter seeking to crush these vicious lies is the founder of an elite squad known as Heal Thy Spirit. These are her stories. All right, so I made some notes. And like I said, this is going to be more of a just kind of wrapping everything up and getting you guys caught up on what's going on. If this is your first time here, I'm Tia. The name of the podcast or the YouTube channel is Heal Thy Spirit. That's a whole nother story. This started as an audio only podcast, and I had no intentions when I came up with the name Heal Thy Spirit, which is a play on words, healthy spirit, heal thy spirit. But it's just interesting how things and God works things out, because it's like the perfect name to talk about my journey with losing fat and or reducing fat, because like Traces of Twan says all the time, we don't want to lose it and then find it again later. So that's the plan. So let's just hop into it as far as what's been going on with me, because I did put up a video last week, which was an update of my most recent DEXA scan. Well, at the time that it posted, it was my most recent, but I have actually since gotten another one. So that update will be coming soon. I also have recorded last week my 3 of my workouts because I get a lot of questions or comments about my arms, which are hidden today because I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. I'll stand up and show you what my shirt says, because it's quite appropriate. And you may see this shirt in the next video because I'm doing some batch reporting, but it's basically sweat, SWEAT. She will endure all things. So anybody that knows me knows that I love a good acronym, and it's basically like it's super thin. So it's like after I work out, sometimes I'll throw this on because, of the cool freeze. So anyway, try not to make this too long. But as far as what's been going on with me, so I did switch jobs. So I had alluded to in my January goals video that there was some information coming about that I couldn't talk about at the time, because I did know at that point, well, in February, my February update, I believe, or January update that was recorded in February. I knew that I was leaving my job, but I wasn't in a position to talk about it. Not that, I have millions of subscribers and that I felt like it would get back to my employer. But I just did, I had some things that I had to button up. That job was sucking the life out of me. And I am now actually doing the same thing for a competing company, and I'm much happier. Additionally, it's a whole story with the whole job thing, because I am a licensed mortgage loan officer, and I've been in this industry for about 20 years. I guess more than 20 years now, because I started when my oldest son, who just turned 23, was when I went back from maternity leave, because the company I was working at, still in financial services. I've been in financial services since I was a senior in high school. I was like credit card collections for Circuit City, if anybody knows what that store is. But I worked there part time in high school. So, and pretty much since then, I've been in financial services at some in some avenue. But I got into the mortgage industry when I went back to work after maternity leave. I had to start a new job, and he's 23 now. So I've been doing this about 23 years. Um, the company that I used to work for was great. It was a startup company, or it used to be a startup company. They've been in business like 10 years now, so I don't think they're any longer considered a startup. And it was great at first, but there were some changes in management about a year and a half ago or whatever. I took that job actually because we were relocating to Denver. I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, and I lived in Maryland for about 10 years. And when my kids graduated from high school in Maryland, well, when the youngest kid, which it was actually COVID year, so that was a challenge. But he graduated and we moved back to Virginia, but Northern Virginia, where my other half is from. And so we have a house there, and it's right down the driveway from my in-laws. You probably heard me talk about. You probably, if you go back, you can probably see some videos on that porch that I recorded when I was living there. But anyway, my youngest son is still there. He's 21 now, and he has a roommate. He lives in that house, and we moved here because my other half got transferred for work. And so the job that I had at that time, I was a sales manager at a mortgage company, which loved that job. No, zero complaints. Probably made the most money in my life working there. But obviously, after COVID, we had to go back to work 2 days a week. And so I was commuting. It was still a hike, but it was only 2 days. But I was commuting from Virginia to Maryland, like the Fredericksburg, Stafford, Virginia, to Columbia, Maryland, 2 days a week. So obviously I can't commute 1,800 miles. So that's how we ended up in Denver, and how I ended up with this last company, which, like I said, I loved it. If it were up to me, I would never work for a big company again. And I've worked for some really big ones, pretty much all the players: Capital One, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Loan Depot, New Res. These are, major financial institutions. And, the mortgage companies I mentioned, they were like the leaders, like the top 5 of mortgage lending. But it's a very different culture, a very different atmosphere. So it was a good experience. I don't regret anything in the past because I feel like everything is either a blessing or a lesson, usually both at some point. But long story short, I found out that I was, that I had received this job at the new company on Valentine's Day. I got the job offer. And so I was really just grinding the last 2 weeks of February, trying to get all my final deals closed and, make sure everything was great, before I left there. And I did. I succeeded. I left. When I left, that was probably the biggest commission that I had received in the whole 3 years that I had worked there. It was just timing. It wasn't like I was working any harder or any less. But I did want to button up everything that I could, before leaving. And so then I started my new job on March 3rd. And I know it's exactly where I'm supposed to be, in this season of my life. So in addition to that, school, the second block of fall semester started also. That just wrapped up. So that was like 7 weeks ago, whatever that is. Today's date is May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo. So that job wrapped up, that semester just wrapped up yesterday. I actually do have one class that I was granted an extension, and I am actually recording this video instead of watching Taisha's live because this is the time that I have to get it done. So I have to get it done. The TV's on and I can see the chat, but I'm talking to you guys. So apologies, Taisha. I'll catch the replay for sure. So that's that. So that's what's going on in my life. So all good there. That's finally settling down because I have a week break before summer semester starts, and I'm kind of settling into my own at work. So check and check. And I've dropped my hours down at Target to like twice a month. I go in to Target. So I haven't been there in quite a while, but I do work on Thursday of this week. And then I'm off again and I go back on the 22nd. So there's that. All right, so on to what you are probably here for, I hope, is my February update. So, well, February and March. So for February, on February 1st, I weighed in at 193.6 pounds. March 1st, I weighed in at 189 pounds, which is a loss of about 4.6 net pounds. I did go through and kind of update the week by week. Week 42, I reduced 2.2 pounds, and that shot was in my right thigh. Week 43, I dropped 0.8 pounds, and that shot was in my lower mid stomach. Week 44, I dropped 0.8 again, and that was in my upper right stomach. And then week 45, I dropped 0.6, which was my right arm. So pretty consistent. Not really sure what was going on that first week of the month, why I was able to drop 2 pounds, but I think the week before that I gained, and that's typically what I tend to do. There's like 1 week in the month where I will gain some weight, and then the next week, or I'll stay the same or gain, and then the next week I'll have a big drop. And for me, 2 pounds is a big drop. Especially considering if you watch the last video about my DEXA scan update, I am in, continual body recomposition. So the weight is going to come off slower because I am consistently building muscle as I lose fat. And that is a thing, and it is doable. I'm proof of it. But when I add up like the 4 weeks, so like February was like a weird month where, well, not weird because every month is like that, but it's interesting because February is exactly 28 days. So it was a literal 4 weeks. And but part of the week, because I weigh on Sundays, I take my shot on Fridays and I weigh on Sunday. So part of that week, March was in there at some point. But if you just add up those 4 weeks, weeks 42 through weeks 45, I actually reduced 5.2 pounds during that time frame. And I probably like the last couple of days of March, of February, that were the first few days of March. I think I probably went up a little bit, but we'll see. As far as my exercise, I exercised 24 days out of the 28. So that averages out to 6 times a week, which is pretty consistent. Some weeks I will go 7 days, but it's not heavy, because Fridays is always kickboxing. So I wear weighted gloves, but they're lightweight. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the only day that I do zero strength, but still do a workout. Mondays and Thursdays are my typical rest days, but I usually work out with the Fit Squad, Kirsten, Quick Fit, and your pal Misty, who I've talked about before. So that, pretty much is it for exercise. And, in the beginning of the year, I started counting the squats and I kind of lost track. I did February count 2,232 squats, along with whatever I did in January. So I'm not 100% sure where that number is. I know that January was a lot higher because that month was the squats challenge, with Fit Squad. And so I know that it was probably double that. And then March, I counted some days, and April, I didn't even try. So the whole squats thing out the window. I still do a lot of them, but I don't know how many I do. So, but that was fun to see how long I could last. I did it for about 2.5 months. So maybe next year. All right. As far as my eating, okay. So I am 5'6.5", and my dietitian pretty much the entire time. I need to go through and check the average, but my goal is less important on the calories, but more important on the macros. So but I did track all of that. And there is also a video that will go up the day after, because it's already recorded. It's just I've been holding off because I wanted my 50th episode to be my 1 year anniversary. So this is episode 49 that you're watching right now. And then tomorrow, episode 50 will be up, possibly wearing the same shirt that you see right now. And then I have like 4 or 5 other videos that are already recorded. So I'll be pretty consistent over the next week or so, and hopefully keep on that stride. So we'll see. So for my eating, my calories, like I was trying to say, about 1450 is between 1400 and 1500 is kind of what I mentally shoot for. Like if I go over, it doesn't matter to me. Like that's the least of my concerns. It's more of, or am I hitting my macros? So in the entire month of February, from the 1st through the 28th, I consumed 40,611 calories, which works out to an average of 1450 per day, which means, average means some days it was higher, other days it was lower. When I look at my actual macronutrients, so carbs, 3,344 for the entire month. That averages out to about 119 grams per day, which is right around where the dietitian set me. I think she wanted me between 100 and 120. And there were times that I thought I'd never get there, but clearly, February was a month. And then I did kind of like a percentage. I basically did, we'll talk about in my macros video with, carbs and protein each have 4 calories per gram. And then fat has 9 calories per gram, and fiber has 2 calories per gram. So if you do the math on, how to calculate your percentages, like what percentage of your daily calories are you consuming in carbs? Well, that came down to 29% of that 14. Well, I didn't really do 1450. I did the math, for the per gram, to come up with 1564. A lot of not a lot, but a good portion of, like if you talk about protein shakes or the clear whey, or eating a protein bar, things like that I don't necessarily have every single day, but those don't really line up with, if you're eating whole foods. So when I talk about there's 4 calories per gram of carbs and protein, I'm talking about when you're eating whole non-processed food. So if these macros were achieved eating only whole processed food, then it would come up to about 1,564 calories, which 29% of that is carbs. My fat, 1,885 grams, which averages to about 67 grams a day. That's a little bit higher than what my dietitian recommends. She wants me at, around 50 to 55, but it hasn't really had any impact. And like I said, I don't limit myself or restrict my eating, because, diet is dead as far as I'm concerned. I haven't been on a diet since I lived in Virginia. So there's that. And, I vowed when I finished that last diet, and it was actually in April of 2021. I know that for a fact. So, and it's now April of 2020. Well, it's May now because it's the first week, but of 2025. So I haven't been on a diet in 4 years. And I'm better for it. And so there's that. The fat at 67 grams of fat, that equates to 39% of my daily calories. And protein, 3,101 grams of protein, which averages out to 110.75 average, for the 28 days, which accounts for 28%. So that's, probably a little low. I'd like it to be more of a 40 on the protein side, and then like 30, 35, something like that, if I did the math right. I don't know. But yeah, because if I take that 30% fat, 39% fat, and pop that 9% over to protein, then that'll put me at about 40%, just under 40% protein, 30% carbs, and 30% fat. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for. Fiber only accounts for about 4%, but I did 851 grams, which averages out to 30 grams a day, which is actually excellent. So I'm happy with that. So that was February. 4.6 pounds lost during the month of February. Weigh-in was 189. For March, we start weigh-in 189. And on March 30, no, sorry, not March, April 1st, because I do just do the weigh so that I can capture the last day of the month. Now, March is interesting because I had, March has 31 days. So that's an extra 4 days, 28, 30, 3 days, an extra 3 days than February. So, one would think that my weight reduction would have been higher. But the math just it's not always mathing. But I actually did on April 1st, I weighed in at 184.6. So from 189 to 184.6 actually is a net loss of 4.4 pounds. How that breaks down in week 46, I actually gained 1.6 pounds, and I did my mid upper abdomen. Week 47, I weighed in at 187.8. So I dropped 2.2 pounds, which, wasn't really 2.2 pounds because I had gained 1.6 the week before. And that was my right thigh. Again, 2.2, 2 months. Oh, I already talked about, no, I didn't talk about it. My right thigh, I had gained lost 2.2 in week 42 also. So that's an interesting observation. Week 48, weighed in at 186 exactly, and that's a loss of 1.8 pounds. That was in my mid lower abdomen. So I started, rotating like 6 spots of my abdomen, and I don't do the left side of my body. I never did a video about that, but I did a little experiment because I honestly feel like whenever I do the shot on the left side, it's just, except in the very, very beginning. So I'll go through, since it's been a year now, I guess I'll add that to the list of things that I might talk about here in the next couple of weeks. Week 49, I weighed in at 185.4, and that was a loss of 0.6, and that was in my right arm. And then there were 2 more days, in that week, so week 49 was all March. And then week 50 was still included 2 days. So that, will show up 2 days of the new month of May. So that basically was 3 pounds total loss over the 4 weeks prior. But if you look at it the first to the first, that's a total of 4.4 pounds. And in February, I lost 4.6 pounds. So that is pretty much my average. A little more than 1 pound a week is what I tend to lose. So March eating, 45,767 calories, which comes to an average of 1476. When I do the little calculation, that's if it were whole food based on the grams of macros, I'd be at 1508. So my carbs, 3,052, which is an average of 98 a day, right on target to be right around 100. And then that puts me at 26%, so a little bit lower in March. Fat, 2,162 grams, which averages out to 70 per day, still right around the average. And that is 42% of my intake. Protein, 3,301, 106 grams of protein per day was my March average, and that's about accounts for 28%. Again, fiber, 958, average is 31 grams per day, counts for 4% of my calorie content. So the other thing about March is that I told you I started my new job March 3rd, and we actually went to San Diego. You might have seen pictures on my Instagram. If you saw that, or if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen pictures. I took some pictures while I was there, and also ate a lot more. I think that week I averaged just that week, I averaged over 2,000 calories per day, but there was a tremendous amount of walking. And I did work out still. I think I actually met all of my male coworkers on that Monday morning because we all work from home. This was just like they flew us out there to kind of work together for a couple of days. And we went to not Giants. That was my old company in San Francisco. We went to a Padres game in San Diego. And that was cool. We also we had a Taco Tuesday on the Tuesday that we were there. The hotel was right by the beach. It was gorgeous. I got to meet up with one of my old high school friends who lives in San Diego now. So she took me to see the seals. And I ate gelato, which was delicious. And yeah, so that was pretty much the trip. But all that to say is that, and I lost weight while I was there. I worked out in the gym Monday morning at the hotel gym. I did a ton of walking on Sunday because I got there really early. And we had, there wasn't work. We flew in on Sunday and then we started work on Monday. And then Tuesday, I attempted to do my train well workouts, but the gym wasn't really equipped. Like it would be fine if it was like a year ago, but now because I kind of know what I'm doing in the gym, I didn't have everything I needed. So it wasn't as productive. But like I said, there was tons of walking everywhere. I don't know how many miles I walked, but I think that can be attributed to some of the fact that I didn't gain weight, even though I was gorging. And also the whole, my body knows that, maybe it just wanted to release weight because I had upped my calories. But, all that to say, March was a good month. Exercise, I did 21 workouts over 19 days. So essentially what that means is there was a couple of days that I did a 2 a day, as my sons used to call it when they were in football. And also, I didn't talk about my sugar. I guess I didn't write it down for February and March, but my sugar intake is very, very low. Like I don't try to eat less sugar. I just don't eat that much sugar. So it's usually on average about 20 to 30 grams at the most. Like if I have 30 grams of sugar in one day, that's like, I must have ate like a piece of cake, like real cake or something like that. Like over the holidays, Thanksgiving, I think it was a little bit higher. And Christmas, because, the kids made cookies, things like that. But I don't really, for the most part, just eat candy or chocolate or, things that are high in sugar content. But like I said, it's just because I don't desire it, not because I'm, banning myself from having it. So yeah, 21 workouts over 19 days, which comes out to, I didn't really do the math. But if I worked out 19 days out of 31, that means I had 12 days off divided by 4 weeks. So So about four. I averaged in March only about 4 days a week of workouts on average, except those 2 days. And those are probably like makeup days because I had missed. I'm very rigid with myself because I love to work out now. Like I can't even believe, I don't even know who this is talking right now, but I do. I love it. And if I miss a workout, I always want to make it up. Partially because of the progressive overload and trying to stay on my plan so that I can, accomplish the things that I want to accomplish with my strength training. And also because I just don't feel right. Oftentimes, like last night, I only slept 4 hours because I was up past midnight finishing, final assignments and stuff for school because the semester was ending. And I had told the Fit Squad that I would be at all of the workouts because there's a boot camp every single morning at 5:30 a.m. my time. They're back east, so it's 7:30 their time. And they all think I'm crazy because I get up and work out with them at 5:30 in the morning before work. And then on Sundays, I'm sorry, not Sundays, Saturdays, they do a 30-minute, except once a month, that's an hour also. But the Monday through Friday boot camp is an hour long. And I looked at the schedule and was like, based on, so I'm not overtraining based on my workout schedule with Trainwell, I was like, I can be there every day except Tuesday. And then I got up this morning and I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm so tired. And I felt not in the mood to work out, but I did. And I felt better afterwards. So, and that's how I know if I hadn't worked out, if I had skipped, I would have mulled around all day, been low energy, all the things. So, that's a little sneak peek of what's to come this week. So there's that. I guess I'll end it there because like I said, the next video is going to be my April 21st was my 1 year anniversary on Zepbound. And so I'll just roll in my April update at the end of that. And then we will talk about May goals and keep it moving from there. So if you have any questions, feel free or comments, leave them below in the comments. And I do respond to all the comments. Do not forget to heal thy spirit for a healthy spirit. Make grace and peace be yours in abundance. Take care.